Hello, everyone. I wonder if there are any fishing enthusiasts among my listeners. If you don't enjoy fishing, I believe there are probably fishing enthusiasts among your relatives or friends. Fishing started as a survival skill, but as society developed, it gradually became a leisure activity for relaxation. There are many fishing clubs everywhere, and some television channels even broadcast programs related to fishing. Regardless of your level of fishing expertise, catching big fish is always a source of pride. So, today's story is related to a big fish. There was a gentleman named Mr. S, and one year, when he went home to pay respects to his ancestors, he met his cousin, whom he hadn't seen in years. They made plans to have dinner at his cousin's house the next day, but Mr. S arrived early, and his cousin took him to the riverside for fishing. Mr. S had never tried fishing before, so he was quite curious. In his first attempt, Mr. S managed to catch a big fish in less than an hour. The fish was nearly 90 centimeters long and 50 centimeters wide at its widest point. His cousin and many other fellow anglers were attracted by the catch. People gathered around, and Mr. S received lots of admiration and praise. He was thrilled. That evening, after dinner, Mr. S drove back home with the big fish, and he showed it to his wife, children, and friends. He didn't eat the fish but stored it in his home freezer. The next day, he even invited a renowned local artist to paint the fish on a canvas and had it framed to hang in his living room. Whenever someone came over, he proudly showed off the fish. Everyone who saw the big fish gave Mr. S a thumbs up. However, Mr. S became increasingly obsessed with fishing and neglected his business. He told his wife, "I think I can catch an even bigger fish. I'm going back to our hometown for a few days. Take care of the business." So, he went back to the countryside by himself. He wanted his cousin to accompany him, but his cousin had to work, so Mr. S went fishing alone. On the fifth day, when dinner time came and Mr. S still hadn't returned to his cousin's house, his cousin went to the riverside to find him. To his surprise, Mr. S's fishing gear was there, but Mr. S was nowhere to be seen. His cousin immediately called the police. Despite an extensive ground search, Mr. S couldn't be found. Based on various clues, the police speculated that Mr. S might have accidentally fallen into the river while fishing and likely drowned. S's wife, devastated by his disappearance, came to the countryside and organized a search team to retrieve his body. They searched for a whole week but couldn't find his body. Even though they didn't find the body, it was widely believed that Mr. S had drowned. 3 months later, something strange happened. The local police called Mr. S's wife and told her they had found a body downstream from Mr. S's hometown. The body had been submerged for a long time and was unrecognizable. However, it was wearing a raincoat similar to what Mr. S had worn when he disappeared. In the raincoat's pocket, they found a car key, which was indeed Mr. S's car key. Mr. S had driven to the countryside himself, and his car had been parked in his cousin's yard. When Mr. S's wife arrived at her cousin's house, the police and onlookers had already been waiting for some time. Strangely, when they inserted the car key into the car, the vehicle wouldn't start no matter what they tried. The car was in perfect working condition, and Mr. S's wife couldn't understand why it wouldn't start. In frustration, she shouted at the corpse, "You chose to fish instead of taking care of our business, and now that you're dead, I'm here to take you back, but it seems like you still want to fish here. Fine, stay here and fish." She was angry at her husband. After her outburst, the car door, which had been locked, inexplicably opened by itself. The car started, and Mr. S's wife drove it back to their city. The next day, Mr. S's wife burned the painting of the big fish that had been hanging in their living room for months. She also disposed of the big fish that had been kept in the freezer. At that time, many people in the countryside speculated that Mr. S might have encountered the fishing god, as they had never seen such a big fish in their lives. They believed that Mr. S's obsession with fishing had cost him his life. However, some thought it was just a coincidence. Reflecting on this story, if Mr. S hadn't caught such a massive fish, the subsequent events might not have occurred. So, the question remains, did Mr. S's obsession with fishing lead to his demise? It's a matter of personal interpretation. Nevertheless, it serves as a reminder to all fishing enthusiasts that if you catch a big fish, it's best to release it. Take a photo to remember the moment, but let the fish live. Okay, let's move on to the next story.